I now have the pleasure of introducing the kickboxing, opera singing cancer scientist from Philly who can't talk right. He is Raja Vaidya, a 3-time TEDx speaker, as well as a best-selling author with Barnes & Noble. And I call that out so that you can pay specific attention here because he has some of his books. They're going to be in the back. He's going to be signing them for those who are interested. But also, in some of the books, there's a golden ticket. So if you're interested in him coming to your organization for delivery of a workshop, make sure you see him, and hopefully you're the lucky one. But now we'll have an interesting session, right? His talk about why companies should hire invisible disabilities to increase profitability. His work is really about advocating for and hiring individuals who, of course, have invisible disabilities, because it's not only about the inspiration for supporting, but also it's really practical for companies that are looking to increase that profitability. His perspectives are quite unique and join at the intersection of DEI and business growth. So you don't want to miss out here. Again, keep your pens and pad out to take notes. Join me in welcoming Raja.
Yeah. Thank you. This is the moment, this is the day, when I send all my doubts and demons on their way. Every endeavor I have made ever is coming into play, is here and now today. Oh, y'all just heard that I don't talk right, so I had to start with something else. I'm in the back of the conference room, and there's a lot of applause for the presentation that was just given. And with the rain streaking down the windows, there's a tear streaking down my face. For the past 9 months, I had worked on this project side by side with my partner. Half of the slides on the slide deck are my data. And she left my name off the slide deck. I approached my managers. Why did that happen? How come she gets the credit for my work? And they said, well, Raja, everybody knows how much work you did. Everybody knows your contribution. I spoke to his manager. I talked to HR. Yeah, everybody knows how great you are. Everybody knows how hard you worked. She got a promotion off of that work, and I did not. Raise your hand if that has ever happened to you. Somebody else has maybe benefited from your work. It happens. It happens. And I'm not here to point fingers. What I'm here to do is to shine a light on some of our blind spots. I am what you call a disfluent, also very handsome. But primarily I am a disfluent. And what happens is that when I try to speak, ever since I was a child, I've had a problem with my speech impediment. So, as young as 7 years old, my second grade teacher decided, because I used to get into 30-second speech blocks, it's sort of like this. Raise your hand if you have a car. Anybody have a car? All right. If you step on the gas and you step on the brake at the same time, what happens? You start grinding your gears, right? That is my voice for half the day. So by noon, I would just give up talking because I couldn't get any words out. I would get a sore throat every day just from trying to talk. My teacher told the guidance counselors that I was mentally retarded, and I was put into special education. And it took me years to break out of that cliche, because that's not who I was. I decided that I had to find some ways to break out of it. But in so doing, it was also a way for me to hide because I was ashamed of my disability. Now, according to the Mayo Clinic, 5 to 10% of children have some sort of a speech fluency, dysphagia, a stutter, a stammer, a lisp. If you add students with a language or English as a second language or some sort of a thick accent, it's even higher. So imagine 30 million people in the US have some sort of a speech challenge. And maybe they're being left unrecognized for their talents. That person who took advantage of my work, I decided something had to change. Because that was only in 2017, recent. So I decided to forgive and transform it into something positive. So I joined Toastmasters. That is a speaking and a leadership training nonprofit worldwide. And I learned to face my fear. Sunita came up earlier and she said that fear stands for false evidence appearing real. It does. Because my shame was that, well, if I try to talk, let me try to hide in loud areas so people think it's just part of the ambiance. Maybe I can just, hand off my data and let someone else present it. And instead what happens is that eventually they found out. And they would start saying, like, well, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Why are you talking that way? I said, well, wish I could talk better, but I can't quite yet. But it casts a shadow over everything that I do. So I found that I had to do 3 things in order to find my way to stand out and be more. So our talk here is really talking about how these invisible disabilities can hamper your company. But if you look for these diamonds in your company, because they're hidden beautiful gems. There are people with talent. And it doesn't matter what types of challenges they have. There are so many. You can now increase your productivity and your profitability without having to spend out more money to outsource or to spend money on hiring or due to high turnover. Instead, you find what you already have. I want to talk about what happened October 1st. There's too many things happened October 1st. But last night, the Longshoremen's Union went on strike. Right? You heard about that? So now their supply chain is going to be really stressed all across the U.S., all the way from the ports of Gulf of Mexico all the way up to Maine. How is that going to affect our business? A lot, isn't it? I want you to focus on the last part right there. The first Ford Model T was produced and sold to a customer on this day, October 1st. Imagine if they had a supply chain issue like this today. What would happen? Would they be able to get tires? Would they be able to get the axle? Would they be able to build the engine? Would they be able to have enough gasoline to put in the vehicle? So now, every single part of the productivity is going to be affected, isn't it? As soon as I found out I was doing this, Odie actually reached out to me about a month ago when he saw me do a speech. I was in a practice speech for my TEDx. So I decided, you know what? Not only do I want to know the landscape, I reached out, I researched all the companies. I also began a DEI certification course. And I said, my goal is I'm going to get this certification before this summit. Guess what? Look at the date. September 30th. That's right. Okay. See, a lot of us know what to do, but we don't do what we know. Why is that? We're being held back. Let's find out a way that we can move forward. Because accessibility and people who have disabilities are all around you. 1 billion people worldwide. So it's not like, oh, some random person in some random company. No, they're sitting in this room right here. They're sitting in every single company and every single table. And you might not know it because it is an invisible disability. Now, I'm not going to get into the deep dive of this. What are the benefits of DEI programs to supply chain management? You all know this. You're going to get advanced innovation and problem solving, increased supplier diversity, improved employer engagement and retention. You're going to get better decision making because you have more out-of-the-box thinkers. You have more advanced reputation and brand loyalty. And you're going to have better compliance and risk mitigation. Because by having people who have different opinions, doesn't it make sense that you're going to be more productive because you're asking different questions? When you ask different questions, that's when you start to address the markets that you're not talking to. See, a lot of us get stuck in this box of fear, right? So here I am, I'm stuck in this box of fear, I can't get out. But in order to break out, what you got to do is you got to imagine outside that box of fear that's been created for you by your company, your education, your upbringing, your culture, your language. The other side of breaking out of the box of fear is uncomfortable. And if you don't get comfortable being uncomfortable, the other side of that comfortable is that's your greatest success. Make sense? Or if you understand, say I do.
I did.
Beautiful. I like this audience. Imagine companies that tried to do this early on. For example, Wells Fargo that tried to say, we want to diversify, so we're going to try to specifically hire Black, African American, or Mexican people, but they got sued because actually their policies ended up saying that to imply that an employer is going to choose you based off of race ended up moving the needle too far. Microsoft, on the other side, proved that those actions that they are taking were trying to diversify, but not specifically based off of a race. So they were able to diversify faster. Now, how does this apply to your supply chains and your companies? We have to watch out for the political quagmire that is hiring people. So, for example, I found this article early this year that Microsoft has an ability summit. So they invite people of all different backgrounds and challenges to be a part of it, and they help people to integrate a little bit better with their disabilities. And the clicker's not working? There we go. Now you may be asking, why do I do this? Has anybody seen a movie recently? Raise your hand if you've been to see a movie. Star Wars, Harry Potter, Fish Called Wanda, I don't know. Now, in Hollywood, now having grown up in America, I was born in Bombay but raised in America, so I'm a child of two cultures. I'm split culture also. Okay? So not only am I this handsome, but I'm also split culture too. So, growing up, I knew that I was different, but different children generally would point it out. And the adults wouldn't say it, but they would avoid you for being different. Raise your hand if that's ever happened to you. Have you ever been avoided because you felt like you didn't belong at that table or didn't belong in that room? Well, in a couple of weeks, October 22nd is going to be National Stuttering Awareness Day. And if you pay attention now in Hollywood, the person with the speech impediment, 9 times out of 10, is either the villain or the fool. Is that who I am? That's what I felt like growing up. Growing up, I remember watching My Cousin Vinny, and then the lawyer that is trying to defend the young children against a murder rap starts to come out and starts to stutter, stammer all over the place, spitting on the jury, and that's funny. I felt heartbroken. I said, this is what people think of me? Is that who I am? That's not who I am. In the most recent Star Wars movie, Benicio del Toro's character, my friends and I went to a movie theater opening day, because I'm a big sci-fi fan, by the way. Anybody else here like Star Wars, Star Trek, sci-fi, anything? Good, good. You guys are open-minded thinkers, right? Because you are expecting the unusual. I'm kind of unusual too, aren't I? Right? Because who does kickboxing and opera and cancer research? That's kind of weird, isn't it? It's a weird trifecta. During the movie, Benicio del Toro's character is a smuggler, and he's a gambler, and he's been reached out by the rebels to try to get aboard the Imperial Star Destroyer. And as soon as I heard him talking, I said, oh, great, he's going to betray the rebels. And my friend said, what are you talking about? Haven't you seen this movie? I said, I know Hollywood. Guess what happens 10 minutes later? He betrays the rebels. Is that the intentionality that we want to promote about people with different abilities? Now think about this. If you had seen that and thought, oh, that's funny, oh, that's typical, that's what they do. In the most recent series, Loki, the most powerful entity in the entire universe, ends up having a speech impediment. He ends up being the bad guy again. In Harry Potter, the very first movie, poor stuttering Professor Quirrell is a stutterer. Yeah. And he becomes Lord Voldemort, the most evil person in the entire universe. In Red Dragon, I think it was Charlie Fiennes. He grew up with a lisp. He ends up being a serial killer. Did you see a pattern here? And I've only seen 2 movies where they promote the person with the speech a disfluency as a person rather than just a stutterer. Because I'm a person who stutters. There's a whole lot pieces of me. It's not just my disability. For most of my life as a cancer scientist, I've been in research, and I decided that I wanted to hide in the lab. So I had to find different ways for me to hide my shame. So take a look at this. There we go. There are multiple types of disabilities, everything from chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, lupus, depression, attention deficit disorder, migraines, people with mental health conditions, people with hearing impairment, sight impairment, speech dysphasia. This is just a small list. I joke around that this is from the Far Side comment. This is the kid. He's in the school for the gifted, and the door says pull, so he's trying to push the door. I just always thought that was funny. But is that a disability? No, he's gifted, so that means he's actually abled in a different way, right? Is there only one type of speech handicap? No. Yes. This is the short list, by the way. The short list is 20. I actually found 24, and I didn't have space for you to put this up here. Now, think about all the people that are struggling to speak. During the Eagles Super Bowl a couple years ago, I'm calling on the phone during halftime to order a pepperoni pizza, click, from Domino's, and they hang up on me. So this is not a once-in-a-while thing. This is an everyday thing. When I talk to the person at the parking attendant where I'm turning my car, and I'm trying to explain which day I'm leaving, they say, what are you saying? Okay, oh, hey, can you talk to him? I can't understand him. That happens. Do I get mad? No. I understand. It's a challenge for some people, not just me. And for all of you all out there, there are different ways you can overcome your challenges. So this is not just a talk about DEI, it's also a talk about figuring out how to change your challenges here. So now, imagine right now when you're walking in the parking lot, I am working on content and talking at the same time, trying to use speech strategies so that I don't fall off my fluency fence. And sometimes I start talking really fast so that I don't get to that point where I'm going to get stuck in a block. So while I'm struggling to get the words out, the people next to me are walking by me. So how does that apply in your corporate decision making? Suppose you have an employee who is trying to speak up, but two people can speak up in front of him because that split second where you need to answer, they can't get in. This just happened on Zoom recently too. Imagine on Zoom. All right, who's got a question? Any questions? Any question? Okay, we're almost done. Last question? Can't get the question out. Have we thought about, instead of that, what if we have people raise their hand? By raising their hand, guess what happens? Now there's a queue. Everybody gets their turn. We respect everybody's time, don't we? So a lot of times it kind of feels like this. I'm balancing and about to fall off. Sometimes with my next word, I'm not sure if I'm going to make it because that's what's going on in my head. I may or may not make the next word. So when we think about this, suppose someone at Pharma once told me that it's not about how hard you work. The currency of your work is your last slide deck. So my manager told me, yeah, everybody gets to present every year. One of my coworkers got to present twice that last year, and I didn't get to present at all. Some of them got to present in the entire auditorium of 250 people every year. I have not presented there in 8 years. 5 different managers would use my work to promote themselves, get a promotion, and I would not over the course of 10 years. This is the hidden impact of invisible disabilities that maybe you were not aware of. And like I said, I'm not here to finger point. I'm here to shine a light that maybe you were not aware that you have diamonds right around you, and we need to unearth them. So a lot of people here, me included, have a fear of speaking on stage. You know, that mic makes you really scared, and it feels like you're on a rickety bridge, you're about to fall off. Sometimes it feels like you lose control. You're falling through the air. When it really should be hanging out with friends, around a campfire, enjoying time, right? So my biggest fear, once again, was to face that. So what I started doing is, after I joined Toastmasters, I started to think, how can I help others? And face my fear at the same time. Now I'm going to give you a new definition for fear. Fear stands for face everything and rise. Say that with me. Face everything and rise. Yes. See, in 2019, I started my first speaker confidence workshop. 20 people signed up and 40 showed up. That's how powerful it was. The next year, we hit the pandemic. Well, can't do it live, so 80 people registered and showed up for that. The third year, all of a sudden, I had over 150 plus. We broke our Zoom account. And we had to have somebody else use a larger account just so we could get it done. I won an Inspire Award for changing company culture. And that is the legacy that I want to leave with people. Now, every other year since, and I've now done this for 5 years. Now, hundreds of people, over 2,000 employees I've helped to improve their speaking authority from the speaker who can't talk right. Right? But how do let's go back. So how do these invisible disabilities help Fortune 500 companies improve their profits? Here are 5 examples. You're going to get higher employee retention. Because if you accept them as they are, not how you want them to be, they're going to work for you longer, they're going to have more loyalty, aren't they? Number 2, boosted innovation. Anybody that has any kind of a challenge, they have to think out of the box every day. Truly, out of the box every day. That means when it comes to the boardroom or the game room or the playroom, they're going to find other ways to solve problems. I tell my children all the time, don't be a problem finder, be a solution finder. And when you do that, you are now solving the problems that other people are still thinking the same way about, because we want to move forward and think in unique ways. We're going to have increased employee engagement, a broader market appeal, because right now, how many companies have you heard We commit to adding more DEI in our hiring processes. A lot of companies are doing that, right? Why? Because it pays. If you have a more diverse company, there is a report from called the Brunt Report, saying that companies that specify for every 10% of increase in diversity that they have an increase in, I think, 35% in productivity and profitability. And you get cost savings. But this doesn't work unless you have a partnership with everybody along the line. It's not a one person, it's not a one-stop shop, and it's not a checklist. When you think about what happens to you every day, this is a great quote from Viktor Frankl. He was a Nazi camp survivor, and he wrote a great book called, I think it was called like As a Man Thinketh, and he talked about how compartmentalizing your mind changes the way you perceive life, because you have no control over what happens to you, but you have 100% control over your perception of what happens to you, don't you? So I need some volunteer people here. So like everybody tell me here. So on this side of the room, if you're facing over here, so kind of lean your head this way. Come on, lean this way. What does that number look like to you? Okay, to you guys looks like a 9. All right, you guys over here. What does this number look like to you if you lean to the side? And what number does that look like to you? 6. All right. Tell me what number you got. Tell me what number you got. 6. Who's right? Who's right? Wait. I'm confused now. You can't both be right. Do you see how our perception skews our reality? See, for a lot of us, we see through the filter of what we've been growing up with or what we've been taught. We need to expand and look with better eyes than that. Because now we have to look beyond and start to empathize and think, well, oh, if I'm facing this way, I see things one way. What if I face the other way? Now, what do I see? Right, you feel me? I want you right now, real quick, if you're getting some value right now, take a picture of this QR code and give me some feedback. And what I want to give you so that you can take back to your rooms, to your boards, to your managers, there's going to be a downloadable PDF. It's completely free, no credit cards, just a social security number, that's all. Nah, just kidding. You get a free PDF, which is going to give you the 5 powerful traits of inclusive leaders. And you want to share that with your teams. Because you want to say, well, are our teams doing this? And if they're not, that's okay. But we can learn and we can grow. Because we do not have to stand still, stuck in that box of fear. We want to keep breaking out of that box every single day and start expanding our horizons. Now notice, by the way, also, do you hear when I speak, there's a certain flow. I like to sing, so while you guys are giving your feedback, imagine that over the time, I've had to find ways to, here. Also, don't forget, put in the code DEI, all caps, so that way you get that downloadable. And let's see if this goes. All right. So we're waiting there. In the meantime, guess what? I got another song for you. Yeah. Got another song for you. And this is where the crowd participation really matters. Truly, truly, truly. Because I need volunteers here, okay? So I want everybody who's got their hands free, put your phones down for 1 second. And, here's the one thing I want you to do. Powerful song, impossible to learn. We will listen. So say that with me. Here we go. We will. Yeah, we will. Yes, sing it. Woo, very good. Give yourselves a hand for that. Beautiful. Man, it's like better than a church choir on Sunday. Woo. So my slide is stuck. I have more slides for you, but I want to, oh, there we go. So I want to give you real high level right now how these invisible disabilities can increase your profitability. This was me last month at my TED Talk, and my title was How to Speak When You Can't Talk. Truly, how to speak when you can't talk. So in these companies, it's not just smaller intermediate companies making changes. It's, for example, Microsoft. They improved their innovation and problem solving. The result was they had increased productivity and innovation in their teams, which contributed to product improvement and higher customer satisfaction. Who wants that? Yeah? Show of hands, good. What about if we get, oh, let's go back one. Okay, Walgreens, they had increased retention and productivity. As a result of that, because of instituting this, they had lower recruitment and training costs. Now, for those in HR, what is the most expensive cost after you make a hire? It's training, isn't it? And then once that person leaves, your attrition, you have to retrain and rehire, don't you? So, what about Pfizer? Like, anybody know Pfizer? Where's that company? They're around here somewhere? Yeah. So, Pfizer's commitment to disability inclusion here. They're a member of the Disability Equality Index. By the way, also, looking into the sign, I always like to find out like all the details. Like I'm a big nerd about that. Pfizer had a 176 next to them. What was that? What does that mean? Does anybody know what that means? Oh, 175. Yeah, they had a 175. I looked into that. For 175 years, Pfizer has been helping lead the charge in drug development, as well as drug production, as well as other consumer products. They were the first company to mass produce penicillin. Did you know that? So they saved a lot of our soldiers, so thank you for that. I have a family that's in the military, so always appreciate that. Semper Fi. In 1950, rather than just being a chemical manufacturer, they discovered oxytetracycline. So now, therefore, transitioning them from a chemical company into a pharmaceutical company that helps save patient lives. What about GSK? By employing their diversity techniques, they got enhanced employee retention, and they improved problem solving and innovation. Did you hear that part where I said about where people with disabilities have to think out of the box every single day? It's not about for fun, it's about survival. So that means that applies to your business, to your job, to your relationships, right? So now we have to start thinking a little bit differently here. What's that thing on the left side? Anybody know? Does anybody under 25 know what that is? So I grew up with one of these. Ding, ding, ding. Oh, wrong number. Oh, click. Restart. Ding. That was our phone. Our technology and our ways of thinking have to adapt. Blockbuster died because they didn't believe Netflix would take them out with selling DVDs or renting DVDs through the mail, right? Uber, Lyft, they disrupted the entire industry by saying you don't have to have a taxi cab. You can get an app on your phone and get a car within 60 seconds. Airbnb disrupted the hotel industry. So you as a company can disrupt your ideologies about what you think is a disabled person, because you are now mining for diamonds in your employee pool, because there are diamonds all around you. And listen, as a husband, you know, my wife and I have been married 21 years. Give her a hand. She put up with me that long. Diamonds are a girl's best friend, but also a guy's best friend. Mind those diamonds in your business. We are running out of time here, so I'm going to speed through these. All right? Your call to action. Number 1, commit to continuous learning. The more you learn, the more you grow, the more your company's going to learn and grow, the more you're going to learn and grow together. They say that there is an attrition rate. Your body is a biological system that's always growing and always dying. Be on the positive side of that growth. Same thing with your mind. Your mind is always growing, it's always dying. Make sure you stay on the positive side by always growing. Establish accountability. So right now, the KPIs, what KPIs do you have for, hey, we got a great culture now, great. What's the yardstick that you used to measure that last year? Was it a survey to the entire company? But what does that mean? How do we compare that? Let's establish the accountability so that we have a yardstick that can measure how we're actually affecting change. And your third important call to action here is just to foster inclusive practices. And that means that in your hiring, in your resumes, there are blinded resumes so that you can actually hire people without knowing their color, their race, their age. Like I know that Arthur's only 25, right? And I'm a little bit older than that. And so I tell people like, hey, listen, like I just reached a third of my life. I got like another 100 years to go. Right? But now I'm competing against 25-year-olds. So say in HR, they say, you know what, we don't want someone older. We definitely want someone younger. Well, how would that work for the company? Because now you lost a talented person. You lost that diamond who has experience, knows how to avoid the potholes on the road to success, and they have connections and relationships, right? So by taking off the names, the ages, you don't need to, sometimes you don't even need to know like that first round of screening that's to use the algorithms and the AI to screen through the resumes and look at the talent pool. You want to be able to see, do the people have the knowledge and experience as that baseline? Because I think diversity is great, but picking one specific personal culture or race over another skews it in one direction, doesn't it? It should be about the talent. If you can do the job, you should get the job, right? So we are looking for inclusive leaders. So in the back, I'm going to be signing my book, and I would love for you all to have the opportunity to continue with me more this conversation about how invisible disabilities can grow your company. Really, that's it for me. I just want to say, all of you, I believe you can fly. I believe you can fly. I believe you can touch the sky. Sit around every night and day, trying to make DEI the way. I believe you can soar. See me running for that open door. I believe you can fly. I believe you can fly. Thank you all. And Arthur, come on back, man.